All right, shall we begin then?
Sure.
Good, good. Well, good evening, everybody, and I am delighted to be here to talk with you tonight about legacy planning and specifically for your congregation. I'm going to begin with a verse from Scripture because it is a verse that has served me well in this role and really has become a foundational verse for me as I talk with people and do presentations like this one. The verse is from Proverbs 3:9, and it is, honor the Lord with your substance and with the first fruits of all your produce. So here the Hebrew interpretation of substance is wealth. In Scripture, this word for substance is also translated as force, might, stock, living, existence, power, acquisitions, possessions, essence, goods, property, and resources. Honor the Lord with your substance. So that's what we're going to talk about this evening as we think about the kind of planning we as Christian people can think about and might think about putting in place that will actually honor the Lord with our substance. And I want to talk about that substance or wealth just a little bit more and our understanding of that. So a few years ago, I heard a statistic that the average American has their wealth in two buckets, if you will. And one is an income bucket, right? Our annual income, which primarily in our life comes from our work and that paycheck, but can come from other sources, investments, and so on. And that income bucket is about 10%, as I said. And then there's another bucket, and that's our asset bucket. And about 90%, again, of the average American's wealth is in that asset bucket. And so I would just invite you to think about your own life. It may not be exactly 1090. And at different points of your life, it might vary a little. But if we think about it, it kind of falls into, a smaller bucket and one where primarily a lot of our wealth rests, right? And as in the church, I think so often we talk to our people with focus on that income bucket all the time, and rightly so for our annual stewardship campaigns and so on. But what I am, and part of my job and my role is to really encourage us to start to think a little more broadly about that, and especially in light of when we think about honoring the Lord with our substance, and to think about the kind of planning that we can put in place that really helps us to accomplish that goal through the planning that really leads to the distribution of some of those assets, that wealth, as we look at 100% of our wealth. So that planning becomes something primarily, we can do current giving out of our assets as well. So we'll talk a little bit about that, but usually it is in our estate planning or the planning for end of life transfer of our assets. And one of the questions that I pose to you tonight and then to others in this work is, and it's an invitation really, to give thought to those assets, that wealth that you have, that God has given you. And at the end of your life, is there a plan in place that those assets will go where you want them to go, how you want them to go, and in the best way? And that's really what I want to give you some tools to think about and to possibly use in actually accomplishing those goals. And one of those ways is primarily that estate planning or that charitable gift planning effort that we all have an opportunity to do. And So first of all, I want to have a disclaimer that I'm not a financial planner and I'm not an attorney or a tax accountant. I know some about all of those things, but I'm here to help in the charitable gift planning for people of the church and to assist them in thinking about their own assets, their own goals around their supporting their family and loved ones and ministry, and then some possibilities and tools for accomplishing those goals. And then to do that alongside, not everybody has a financial planner or attorney or even a tax accountant, but alongside those other uh, people that help out to accomplish those goals. So as we do that, just a couple things. In 2020, 32% of Americans say that they had put together an estate plan or a will. Only 32%. That's actually been going down in the last few years, and there are a lot of reasons for that. And some of that is because there's so many new opportunities now to just do beneficiary designations or transfer of death, transfer upon assets upon death, and so on, directives. So that changes some of the actual number of wills in place. But just to say a few things about a will is still an important document for people to have, and is often a catch-all as people have in place beneficiary designations and payable upon death directives. A will is important to kind of be a catch-all so we still talk with people and encourage them to talk with their attorney about putting a simple will or a more complex will in place. But of that 32%, 5 to 6% of those people actually leave charity in their will. It seems pretty small, doesn't it? Yeah, and so we figure in the ELCA, we kind of go right along. ELCA Lutherans are right along with that. So if we think about our church or even our congregation, we might think in terms of 5 to 6% of the people to actually are leaving charity. That doesn't mean they're necessarily leaving the congregation. And I think that's an important thing to think about too, because part of that is that we need to extend the invitation, much like we are doing tonight, and help people to think about that. And that's what I would like all of you to do this evening as well, as you think about those assets that you have and where you'd like them to go, and think about your congregation and then other ministries of the church in that planning. And I think the other thing that is kind of fun to think about is if I think our congregations were successful at 5 to 6%, that would be huge for our congregations, because I think there are some who've been doing this work for a long time. And I think that they may be seeing those numbers. But for most of us, I think we have some work to do there. But I don't know the size of your congregation, but it could be that 5 people on this call and maybe a few more make those kind of plans. You might be getting close to that percentage. I don't know. But what we can think about is there's still opportunity for our congregations and to move and encourage our people to think about that. And it begins here, and it begins with conversations like this one as we go forward. So I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint now and walk through those slides and have some conversation about planning, and then what some of the opportunities are for gifting assets as you think about how possibly you can do this. One of the exciting things is that we all have an opportunity to leave a planned gift, a legacy gift to ministry. all of us, no matter what size estate we have, there are some very simple ways to do this. And there are very few people who don't have that opportunity in one way or another. So we're going to go through that and explore just what those opportunities are. So I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint presentation. All right. Do you all see that?
Oh.
You're not seeing it?
No, no.
All right.
Do you want me to, Cindy, or do you want to just try to figure out?
Yeah, let me try one more thing. Yeah, why don't you try it, Mark? I'm
Okay.
not doing it here. There we go.
Let me get the slideshow started.
Sure.
There we go.
And I'll just say next when I want you to flip through it, okay?
Sounds great. Yep.
Okay, so next. All right, so first of all, I want to talk about the planning that goes along with this. Let's move to next, Mark. So we begin by thinking about our goals, and that's really important. And as I mentioned, of course, we want to think about our family and those we love as we make these kind of plans. But there are a few other things to think about. Of course, to provide for family and heirs, if in certain points of our life, to name Christian guardians for our minor children, to remember grandchildren. Part of our important planning is to set up powers of attorney for POA for finances and one for healthcare. It's really important step to do. I was doing a legacy seminar in a congregation here in the Milwaukee area. The chair of the endowment committee, as I was talking about the importance of a will and naming guardians for minor children and setting up powers of attorney, he was kind of moving in his seat and looking uncomfortable. And I just kind of looked at him and I said, "Do you have a question?" And he said, "No." He goes, "But," and he and his wife had 3 small children. He said, "We've not done this." And he said, I'm really thinking I need to do this. He said, "My profession is risk management. I'm in risk management." And he and his wife had not done anything to provide, to name their children's guardians or to set up powers of attorney. So those are sometimes things that can, we put on that list to do and to get to. And I would urge you all, my guess is that some of you here have done that, but to really think about that and make the plans to take action on those things. Part of good planning is avoiding paying unnecessary taxes. And in a book I recently read by a estate planning attorney at Morgan Stanley, he said that 15% of plans, charitable, or I mean, estate plans fail because of poor tax planning and estate planning. 25% fail because beneficiaries are not prepared to receive gifts and often and sometimes end up squandering them. And 60% fail because the donors did not communicate with their beneficiaries their wishes. And we may say, I'll say a few more things about that as we go on, but also just really important to do that kind of planning so that our plans don't fail when they're carried out. Again, to avoid arguments, a Christian preamble is really just a statement of faith in this planning. And if anyone is interested in that, we have some samples that people sometimes put with their planning documents that they then share with their family. And then, of course, to remember ministry as we go forward. All right, Mark. So here are some of the things we're going to talk about tonight. And I said a little earlier that for almost all of us, there is an opportunity for us to remember ministry in our estate plans and in gifting out of our assets. Of course, cash gifts are always something that is we can do. It's an option for us and is received. But for the most part, we're going to talk about the other gifts that are listed here. And I'm just going to walk through them quickly, and then we're going to go into a little more detail on each one of them. At the same time, we're going to go for a little more detail. This is a high-level look here in less than an hour. And so if any of these things interest you, if you'd like to find out more, if there are questions about them and how they work, that's really, I invite you to give me a call. That's why I'm here. And it's not any kind of a commitment, but even if you just have questions, I'd be happy to just hear what you're thinking about or what you might want to know more about, and we can do that. So bequests from estates we're going to talk about tonight: stocks, gifts of stock and mutual funds, IRAs, where we are seeing so much giving activity at the ELCA, and I believe across the nonprofit sector, qualified retirement plans, annuities, variable and charitable gift annuities, which you see down there, gifts of life insurance, real estate, trusts, charitable trusts. And then I want to talk a little bit about 3 opportunities that can be facilitated through the ELCA: memorial endowments, named endowments held at the ELCA, distribution agreements, and donor advised funds. So Mark, you can. All right, I first want to talk a little bit about one of the most popular ways and one of the easiest ways for individuals to leave charity, their congregation, in their estate plan or their will. And it's really by including simple bequest language, right? And here's something I would like not only to invite you to think about, but as leaders in the congregation who are encouraging members to also be thinking about this. It's already cold. Some other research that I had recently read is a survey was done on what is the motivation for people to leave ministry in their bequest. And the number one motivator was a repeated message over and over and over. And that message was simply really 3 things, but part of it was this: have you left Trinity Lutheran Church in your will or estate plan? The next time you review your estate plan or your beneficiary designations, will you consider Trinity Lutheran Church? And then the following language may be helpful to you. And so this language here is template language. It's suggested language that could be given to an attorney or put in a simple will. And there's 2 ways to do this. You can make it out directly to your congregation, to the church, Trinity Lutheran Church, at the address of the church, and then for general purposes, or if you want to designate for endowment, for the endowment fund. You could also, or an individual can also put the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, Minnesota nonprofit organization, and so on, to be distributed through, and then to Trinity Lutheran Church. So it could go that way as well. All right, Mark, next slide. And then I mentioned a memorial endowment fund, and it's what we call a named endowment or a distribution agreement. These are 2 opportunities that are often used by donors at the ELCA. So I'm going to mention the named endowment fund. Families will create an endowment fund at the ELCA, and in their name or in honor or memory of someone. And that fund could be funded currently or at their death. And then they list the ministries that they would like to receive annual distributions. That fund is invested, it's an endowment fund, and it would pay out annually to up to 10 ministries that anyone would so choose. At least 70% of them need to be ELCA related, and up to 30 could be other nonprofit organizations. Many people do this when they particularly would like several ministries to be remembered. So often include their congregation and a camp, or maybe their college or seminary and other things. A really nice thing about setting up an endowment like this is the beneficiaries can be changed during your lifetime. And you don't have to go back to your attorney or anything. You could have your will create this endowment, and then you just have to write the ELCA. So the ELCA will then make sure that those funds over into perpetuity are distributed to those ministries that you designate. And if a congregation is not in a position to manage endowed funds over a long time, these are often really popular, but that's a possibility. And then a distribution agreement is set up much the same way. It's just not endowed funds, it's distributed right out. Okay. So people will set up a distribution agreement. It could name, again, up to 10 beneficiaries. And in their lifetime, they can change those beneficiaries or the amounts or whatever. But at the time of death, when it's funded, then the ELCA Foundation would distribute the funds out as directed by the donor. So those are very popular. A lot of people set those up at the foundation. All right, Mark, next slide. So let's talk a little bit about giving through an IRA. I'm sure there's nobody in this group that's over 70 yet, but we'll talk about it anyway. So giving through your IRA, and IRAs are really a wonderful opportunity to give. They're a good asset to give. There's some opportunity during lifetime and then some at death. So during lifetime, it really is for folks that are at least 70 and a half. At 70 and a half, you could make a qualified charitable distribution of up to $100,000 per year, and directly from your IRA, again, to the charity or the congregation. And a person does not have to claim that distribution from their IRA as income. A couple of years ago, that age was changed only in relation to having those charitable gifts qualify for your required minimum distribution. And that right now is at 72 years and a half when you have to take that required minimum distribution. Those charitable gifts can qualify that and reduce the taxable amount of your IRA distribution. So, of course, a lot of people are giving this way and learning about this opportunity to give. It's very tax wise for many people. And yet, recent statistics said that up to 35% of eligible IRA givers at age 70 do not know about this opportunity and have not taken advantage of it. So I think there's still real opportunity for us in the congregation to talk about it and then invite our people to think about it. But as specifically for those of you joining us tonight, If you are of that age, and I think to really think about giving your charitable contributions through your IRA, if you have that, it's just a tax-wise way to do it. Even if income is needed for daily expenses, to do your giving with your IRA is tax advantageous. So that's an opportunity for current giving. Okay, Mark, the next slide. And then gifts of appreciated stock are also a way you can give currently, and also a very tax-wise way to give. Giving stock held more than 1 year is actually can increase the size of the value of your gift by 20%. So because you don't need to take the capital gains on that stock, and can take the charitable deduction. And it can go right through to your congregation. There are two ways. Do you have the ability, Mark, at your congregation to process gifts of stock?
I don't. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm not the one to ask. So
Okay.
I can answer this. When I did this a few years ago and I had to send it to the ELCA, and they
Okay.
sent it back to Trinity.
Yes, right.
This is
So
Tom.
some congregations, have a broker that they use, but the ELCA Foundation will process those pass-through stock gifts for congregations, and we do a lot of that. So I'm glad you know about that. If somebody is interested in doing a stock gift for your congregation, just give me a call and I'll assist in that process. There is a small fee, but it really is to pay the manager, the broker, and just small transaction kind of fees for that.
thank you, Tom.
All right, next slide. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about a charitable gift annuity and how that works. So a charitable gift annuity is a gift that people would want to consider if they are interested or need income. So a donor would make a gift of cash or securities to the ELCA Foundation, basically purchasing a charitable gift annuity. The ELCA Foundation would then take that money, invest it in our charitable gift annuity pool, pay you, the donor, annual income payment from that gift for your lifetime, and possibly a second beneficiary's lifetime. And then if it's a one life charitable gift annuity at the death of the person, or if it's 2 life at the death of the second donor, the remainder would then go to charity, to the congregation. This is really also a popular gift with people, particularly 65 and older, because the income that the donor would get is based on their age, the rate return on their age, and they are pretty good rates for donors 65 years and older. So a lot of them consider that. I have those rates do change sometimes. So if you're interested in a gift that would pay income for life, guaranteed income for life, and then with a plan for residual going to charity, that's something that I'd be happy to talk with you about further. There's also some tax-free income for a period of years, and then it becomes ordinary income after so many years. So a really nice opportunity. these gifts start at a minimum of $10,000. And we have donors who do quite large ones, but many of them are in the range of $25,000, $50,000, but the minimum is at $10,000. There's also a flexible annuity too, where a charitable gift annuity, where you can start the payments at a later date. Basically the same idea, but starting the payments at a later date. I've worked, and I should say, if there are any questions, just raise your hand. I'm kind of watching you. And I think I would be able to see that as we go. All right, Mark, the next slide, please. Just another look at charitable gift annuities. You get a tax deduction at the time of the gift. You can give appreciated securities as well, and you receive partially tax-free income for a period of years. The second column, it's an opportunity to make a gift today, and it provides for immediate income, flexibility for the future. The rates are based on the American Council on Gift Annuity suggested rates, and are based on age. And then the ELCA Foundation allows you to distribute the funds to any organization or to a donor advised fund or name endowment. So there's lots of opportunity there in a charitable gift annuity. Next slide.
Cindy, what was the DAF again?
A donor advised fund.
Okay, all right.
And I'll say a little bit about those here in a minute. And next slide. So I just want to talk about qualified retirement plans, another opportunity, another asset for people to think about that planning. And so just kind of a review of how those work. We know that, right? But we have this great opportunity to put funds into our qualified retirement plans pre-tax. But the reality is the IRS is going to receive money on those at some point, and so we will be taxed. And so it's one of the assets that it can be really a good asset to think about for charitable giving, because there are some opportunities if you have charitable intent and planning for these and to plan for making charitable gifts. There are some opportunities for people when we look at our qualified plans. Next slide. So this is a little bit of a hypothetical situation. We'll just look at an IRA and a pre-tax inherited IRA, let's say of $1 million. And if you received that, you'd get a lump sum, you'd take it, or in up to 10 years, and you'd have to pay taxes on that. Or the heir would need to pay taxes on that. Plus, they would receive the inheritance from their family home and other kinds of assets as well. But they would at some point, there would need to be taxes paid on that inherited money. Next slide, please. Okay, so if we think about a possibility of an IRA gift to charity and family, we take that pre-tax inherited IRA, gift it to, one thing you can do if you have a charitable intent is gift, let's say 10%, $100,000 will go to your church, and then $90,000 to your family for that 10-year distribution. They still are going to pay taxes on it. And in the end, with other assets, the family could get $1,900,000. Charity gets $100,000. Let's take another look at that. Next slide. To think about a possibility of creating a charitable trust with that IRA, the pre-tax IRA going into a charitable remainder trust could pay out to the family for more than 10 years, could pay up to 20 years, smaller amounts. They still have to pay taxes on it, but it would be lesser amounts distributed over a period of time. And in the end, through the investment, up to nearly $1 million could go to church or charity. And the distribution to the family would then equal actually more than if it was not, if the trust was not created. So there's some real opportunity in creating in a charitable trust for leaving your IRA to family, and where the amount going to charity would be a lot larger, and the amount going to family would be stretched out longer over a longer period of time, where the taxes too would be more manageable. Last year, I worked with a family in the western part of the state who had appreciated stock, Apple stock, and wanted to set up a charitable trust to benefit a number of ministries, but also 2 daughters and some grandchildren. So we were able to work with him. He gifted that stock to the ELCA. We created a trust that paid to his daughters for their lifetime. They were in their late 60s, and then to his 3 grandsons for a period of 20 years. And then with proceeds then going to 5 ELCA related ministries in that he and his wife cared about. And it really was a win-win for him, for his family, children and grandchildren, and then for the ministries that he supported. So next slide. And I'm going to ask you to go to the next slide as well. So trusts and the ELCA Foundation. Again, this is a service provided by the foundation, and through the foundation, we use outside counsel to draft trusts for people, and the upfront fee is $750 plus $10 is an initial gift to start the trust. There's an annual management fee of 1% upon funding, and that could be either during lifetime or upon death. And then they're also beneficiaries, but contingent beneficiaries could also be named as in that trust. So there's some opportunities working through the church to create those charitable trusts in quite an efficient and cost-effective way. Next slide, please. And go on to the next slide. And 2 more, I think.
One more?
Yes, please. So why do we do this kind of planning? Well, really it is about ministry. It's about leaving a legacy that will help us and help the church in its ministries at all kinds of places, locally and globally. The church provides people like me to be a resource for you in that effort. As I said earlier, to meet with people, to hear their goals, to hear their questions, and help them find answers and solutions to their planning, and to accomplish their goals. And it really is part of that honoring the Lord with your substance and making the plans that will accomplish that goal. So I want to just say one thing about a donor advised fund. The ELCA Foundation also does donor advised funds. And basically the fund is a vehicle that donors can create with a cash gift during their lifetime or at death, and create a fund through which they can do their own giving. And they can do directive giving, direct the ELCA to support through that fund the ministries that they care about, or they can set up a fund like that their family then could be involved in directing charitable gifts. The minimum for that is $25,000, but it can also be a fund that people can add to year after year. They can grow that fund as well. And they can use it for a period of years. And if they want to just have it paid all out at some determined date, that can happen as well. So donor advised funds, again, I think are increasingly important for people and popular. And a lot of our Fidelity and Vanguard also all do donor advised funds as well for people. All right, I want to stop there and just see if there are any questions.
I assume you have some literature on these more detailed information about this?
We
Is it
do.
on the website for the foundation, or where would we find it?
Yes, there are several items on the ELCA Foundation website under ELCA Foundation resources. And I could also email you all or individually. We have a series of one-pagers on all of these gift vehicles, and we could make those available.
Yeah,
So,
that's good. Yep.
yeah. And like I said, too, I'm available. We definitely via Zoom or to meet with people personally. And I'm comfortable with doing that at this time. In about half of my work is with congregations around their endowment ministries, but the other half is really working with people on their individual plans or individual gifts. A lot of times people call and say, Cindy, I think I want to do one of those charitable gift annuities. So we'll start that process and just, run an illustration, gift size, what's your ages, here's what that would look like for you. And, we just start to have that conversation, share the information, and a lot of gifts go forward that way. But part of it is to really start to think about what your assets are and what you'd like to do. And what are some of the ways that you can accomplish that? What are some things tonight that just maybe perked your interest and thought, oh, I'd really like to have more information on that? I'd be happy to talk with you further on that.
And can you go over the charitable remainder unit trust example again, please?
Sure. To bring it back up.
Okay.
So it would be, I think, testamentary trust win-win. So go back. Yep, one more, two more. Yeah. There we go. Okay. So the example here is a hypothetical one. We're just looking at $1 million pre-tax IRA. And if you were wanting to think about leaving your IRA to your children, one of the opportunities in thinking about it is to create a charitable remainder trust. The IRA would create the trust, come to the ELCA Foundation, we would create the trust, and that trust would be invested and then would provide income to your children and and then possibly as contingent beneficiaries to your grandchildren for a period of years. The detail of that, we'd have to look at the numbers and talk about, but there's opportunity to do both there for a period of years. And then at when that period is over, the distribution remainder would go to charity.
And on this example, you're saying that both the charity gets $1 million at the end and the family gets $1 million at the end?
Yeah, that's I mean, we wouldn't be exactly those numbers, but it is in the illustration, it would come out to be about that much.
Does that depend upon any investment costs? I mean, any
Yes, yes,
no, I'm talking about while the money's in the trust, it's earning money.
right, yep,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Mhm. And if you're interested in seeing this in any specific numbers related to your specific situation, age and amount, the church will run an illustration for you. It'll plug those numbers in, and then we can run a picture of what it would look like for you. So we'd be happy to do that.
Cool.
Mhm.
Cindy, can you hear me?
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah, Doug, go ahead. Oh, you're muted now, Doug.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No? You can hear me. Okay. I was just wondering, Cindy, if you could talk a little bit about ownership of life insurance,
Mhm.
turning ownership over to the church,
Yeah,
paying premium. How does that
Right.
work? Have you worked with anybody like that where they have existing life insurance policies? They want to turn the ownership over to the church or to the ELCA
yes,
and continue to pay premiums.
right.
How does that
So-
work?
Okay, so there are primarily three ways to give through life insurance. And I think the simplest is just to name the church as the beneficiary, right? Primary or secondary or percentage beneficiary of your life insurance. So that's one. The one you talked about is to transfer ownership of a paid up policy to the foundation, and you receive a charitable tax deduction, and the proceeds distribute at death. That's actually the second way. The third way is what you were talking about. Well, maybe it isn't exactly. You could establish a new policy too, and take a new policy out on the church. But if you transfer a policy over, or you create a new one, you can pay the premiums if there are premiums yet due on a policy, or you create a new policy. You just make a donation, a charitable gift to the foundation, and they will pay the premium on that. So people often do that, make a gift every year. The church takes that gift, pays the premium on the policy, and at the death, that policy then goes to the designated charity. So is that clear? Should I walk through that again, that illustration?
Well, maybe walk through the premium that you pay. If you continue to pay the premium, that would be a gift to the church to pay the life insurance premium. Would that be a tax deduction for that person?
Yes, it is. Yep,
Is that correct?
yep. It is.
Okay.
Yep. Mhm. Yeah, so you transfer ownership of the policy, you receive a charitable distribution. Or you can transfer the policy, ownership of the policy, and if there are remaining premium payments to be made, you can just give annually that amount to the church, the ELCA Foundation,
Mm.
then they pay those premiums. They're actually owning it. They pay the premiums. And then at the death, the distribution is made.
Right.
Yeah. Mhm. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think on the end of the last slide, Mark, but I don't know if we want to bring it up, but I would be happy to send my contact information to Pastor Mark or Mark Baltz and make it available. I think on the very last slide, if people wanted to write it down. Yeah.
Go one way, just go one way or the other way. See which one sucks up.
Cindy, we do include your contact information in most of the tidings articles that we've been writing.
Great. Okay. Very good.
The Tidings is our newsletter.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Excellent.
Everybody have it?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm going. Keep on going.
All right. Well, if there's no more questions, you know how to get a hold of me, so don't hesitate. But I'm happy to be here tonight and just plant some of these seeds, hopefully, and would love to hear from you.
You gave us a lot to think about.
Good. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. And we appreciate that it's been recorded so that we can continue to make it available and promote it
Sure.
to the members and in the area.
Yeah. And I'd be happy to come out and do this in person sometime too. Sometimes that's a little easier for
Thank you.
everybody. Yeah.
Can I distribute your PowerPoint slides? Is that okay?
Yes. Yeah. Yep. Mhm. Do you want me to send those one pagers as well to somebody?
That'd be really nice. That'd be-
Okay.
Yep.
I'll do that.
Cindy, could you copy, this is Deb Lucian, could you copy me on those one pager things too?
Yes.
So that
Yeah.
we can kind of keep plugging that kind of stuff through various media.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Okay.
All right. Well,
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Good
All
night.
right.
how about if I end with a prayer, if that's okay? Because, you know, I'm a pastor and that's what I do. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Good answer. Let us pray. Okay, let us pray. Gracious God, we give you thanks for this day and all that's happened, especially for all the good we are permitted to give and receive. The day is now past and we commit it to you. We entrust to you the night. We rest securely, for you are our help, and you neither slumber nor sleep. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
God's peace, everybody, and have a great evening. And thank you so much once again, Cindy.
Sure enough. Good night, folks.
Good night.
Hey,
Good night. God bless everybody.
yeah.